Hi there, Megan Thompson with Megan Thompson Coaching. And if you are parenting a highly sensitive child who is stuck in the meltdown cycle and it's hard to get them to share their emotions with you, then let's listen to today's show. We're going to make it quick because it is December. Everybody is super busy. And I'm going to give you some key pieces to your relationship skills that will be necessary to highlight this holiday season as you help your sensitive kiddo open up to you. So let's dive in. Here at MTC, we help parents of highly sensitive kids eliminate the daily meltdown cycle in as little as 8 weeks. And I want to talk about the meltdown cycle from the perspective of shutdowns today, because if your child is melting down, it's very likely that they are yelling, right? Saying things that perhaps you're noticing are very deep and harsh and intense, and you're getting somewhere. But if your child is shutting down, it can really feel like you have to dig to help your child share what's truly going on for them and where the big emotions are coming from that's leading to them refusing to go to school, refusing to engaging in activities, refuse to share with you why they're not doing their schoolwork, etc. And this can be really overwhelming for you as a parent because you're working on breaking this pattern consistently, right? And those glimmers of times when your child is sharing what's going on usually happen for you if you've been trying to help your child break out of this pattern. They're usually happening when you are after the meltdown, after the shutdown. And I want to help you shift the dynamic here and focus on what really works to break out of this pattern. So usually what happens is that the meltdown rises and falls like a big intense wave, right? And then eventually your child tells you what's going on after you're asking lots of questions, after you're trying to guess what's happening, or you reassure them, and then they refute your reassurance and they tell you, no, that's not it, Mom, you'll never understand me. And then finally, you're slowing down and your child slows down and you're able to hear what's really going on. Now that's the ideal situation, that eventually your child unlocks that Pandora's box and tells you what is bothering them. One thing that I know that many parents stuck in this cycle get stuck with, however, is that's 30, 40 minutes later, or maybe even later in the day when the issue that your child was struggling with or what they were refusing is over. So then it's hard to teach your child in that moment because children live in the here and now. And so it can be very difficult for your child to want to address the problem if they're not currently in the problem. So, what do I mean? I mean that if your child is struggling with homework and refusing to do the homework, it can be difficult to get your kid to find the motivation to talk about doing homework later in the day, earlier in the morning before school, when it's not at the time that they need to use the skill. Now, I understand, being a parent coach for many years of parents of highly sensitive kids, that when your child is stuck trying to use the skills to demonstrate internal motivation and communicate their intense emotions safely and move on from the refusal experience and the shutdown experience so that they follow through on the expectation, whether that be for homework or getting the house ready for guests, like you're doing right now in December, or going to different holiday parties, things like that. This is go time, right? This is game time when your child needs to be demonstrating those skills. And that's the time when your child is most present to the fact that they are lacking the skill. However, that's also the same time when they're feeling the most overwhelmed, right? Hence the shutdown, refusal. So it is not an opportunity there for you to be coaching your child to build skills at that point because they're at the depths of their despair. And so this can feel very cyclical as a parent, because if you're trying to teach your child during the middle of the meltdown or right before the meltdown happens, your child is not present to the moment. They are really trying to escape that moment, especially if they are a kid who tends to shut down and implode rather than explode. And both types of behavior patterns are the same root cause, which is a need for you as a parent to learn how to communicate with them, with your child more effectively earlier on in the day, throughout the day, and create a culture in the household where that calm connection and emotional communication is happening in a much more playful manner throughout the day. So I want to shift towards the piece that we're teaching on today, which is a part of the puzzle to break out of the meltdown cycle. And this is related to helping your child open up earlier in the day. And there are 3 key pieces to sharing with your child that it is safe for them to share with you, and demonstrating that communication earlier than when they're stressed out is something that they can do. All right. So first thing is really working very hard to engage in active listening skills. When you have the opportunity to schedule with your child time to discuss their challenges, and that schedule doesn't need to be an appointment, right? You can mentally book the time where you're paying attention to your child and asking them questions about their day. I want to encourage you to use open-ended questions, to use active listening skills, eye contact, full-bodied focus on your child at that moment, avoid multitasking, and work with your child to share their emotional experiences with you. The more engaged that you are, the more engaged your child will be able to be. Now, when you're parenting a highly sensitive kid, you want to watch out for their shame response, because if your child is avoiding talking about emotions at a seemingly neutral time, then that is a key indicator your child feels very overwhelmed about emotions and is stuck in a shame spiral. So that's a key indicator that it could be much deeper than just having, a nice conversation about emotions to turn around this cycle. But it is definitely a place where you need to start. Next is validation, right? Now, you've heard me mention this before. Your child needs to feel heard and understood by you. That does not mean that you need to agree with their behavior. Validation is not agreement. So one thing that your child needs to know is that their emotions are okay. It is okay for them to be experiencing the sadness, worry, upset, or fear about completing a task or going somewhere or moving in a certain direction in the transition. And one thing that I hear often from parents who are stuck in this meltdown cycle is a difficulty validating their child because their child's emotions confuse them. So if you feel confused by why your child is having such a big explosion related to such a small need, right? If they're making mountains out of molehills, then this is definitely something you need to be paying attention to, because it is not necessary for you to agree with how big their emotion is, but it is necessary for you to validate them. This is going to build trust so that your child can feel much more capable of tolerating their own emotions. If your child can't tolerate their emotions, they will not tolerate pushing through and moving through their emotions. Either they will continue to escape them, which is, again, the shutdown cycle is just that. There's a loop-de-loop situation going on here where there are lots of pieces to this pattern of behavior. And then thirdly is that you need to show unconditional care. So when your child is experiencing intense emotions, and that's leading to intense behaviors like avoiding eye contact and refusing to engage in an activity, parking their bum down on the chair, refusing to go anywhere, their body's on the floor, they're melting down, they're hitting, kicking, screaming, it is very important that you avoid demonstrating conditional love. That means you cannot be shutting down either. And I know that this is something that you probably know you're not supposed to do. And it is important for us to cover it anyways, because it's not just the behavior that you're demonstrating that's inappropriate. It's also an important piece to notice that the dynamic in the household is contributing to the problem. So when you shut down, or you leave the situation if your child is experiencing intense emotion. Your child feels frustrated, overwhelmed, and stuck, and that can be exacerbated when you as an adult are shutting down. And I know that it is very possible that you learned to shut down as a coping skill, to just basically white knuckle your way through emotions, white knuckle your way through stress, especially if you're type A, perfectionist yourself. And this is definitely something that you need to break through. You need to be able to tolerate your own emotions and stay in a hard moment, tolerate conflict without shutting down or getting angry yourself. And if that's difficult for you to do repeatedly, then it is time to seek professional support, because you cannot lead your child from a skill that you aren't able to sustainably model yourself, right? So I encourage you to use these techniques to work consistently on the importance here, because I know that you are working hard to turn this around, and paying attention to all the pieces to this puzzle is very difficult to do. And it is possible. We help our clients do this consistently and thoroughly when they work with our team intensively, and it can be simpler than you've been dealing with it yourself if you engage in professional support. I want to highlight the important piece here, that consistency in demonstrating that level of emotion regulation is different than consistency in demonstrating calm. Now, most often parents will hear, don't raise your voice, or try not to react to your child's big emotions, as I need to keep calm the entire time. And if that means that you're compartmentalizing your emotions, then it is time for you to shift your perspective. Okay. What I'm asking you to do instead is to feel your emotion, dissipate it, move on from it, even in that moment. That is what's going to help your child feel more regulated, when you're regulating yourself and then demonstrating that. Otherwise, your child is going to pick up on the tension that you're really trying not to show on your face. And it's very difficult to not show emotion on your face when your child's highly sensitive. They can read you like a book, right? So if you've been working on demonstrating all of these skills through general parenting, gentle parenting strategies, or even attachment-focused parenting strategies, then it is very likely there are some key core pieces that are missing, because these main principles we covered today are nuanced related to parenting highly sensitive kids. Your sensitive child has more overactive mirror neurons. They need to be able to demonstrate with you and experience from you this co-regulation, and that needs to be more specific related to parenting a sensitive child, a child who feels big feelings, who is easily overstimulated, who notices very small details, and right now is emotionally reactive. Now, being emotionally reactive is not part of the trait. That is actually a symptom of the meltdown cycle. Your child having deep emotions and processing their emotions deeply is part of the personality trait, the temperament type, their disposition. However, how explosive or implosive your child is not something that you have to continue to deal with and experience and endure as a parent. It is something that you and your child, who also feels miserable here, can break out of. Okay, so if you want support with that, I encourage you to head on over to our masterclass, watch the free training, and have a conversation with our team after that. You'll learn more about the shifts that you need to make as a parent, and the mindset perspectives, as well as the interventions that you need to engage in as a parent to totally break out of this pattern yourself with your family. I look forward to talking to you soon, and have a great day.